Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you're overseas and on the move, US listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you're in the UK, 0330-332-6541. Or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live. In the first watch today, co-ed schools vis-a-vis single-gender schools. Which is better? And in the second watch, the use of cryptocurrency in commercial activity. For our social media question, we ask, which is better, co-ed schools or single-gender schools, and why? Please share your responses on our Facebook page, Love 101 FM, and also on WhatsApp, 876-997-3125, using the hashtag, The Morning Watch. We'll share your responses later on in the program, but before all of that, here's I quote.
This morning's I quote, "Give light and people will find the way." Ella Baker.
Good morning, Shivani.
Good morning, Rev. How are you?
I'm doing okay. And you, my brother?
Very well, thank you.
Hey, you went to a single-gender high school, right?
I did. St. George's College, right?
Oh, that is the school. But
True
in sixth form, you would have had a co-ed experience.
Yes.
At the same institution?
At the same institution.
All right, so I'm asking
Yeah.
Shooting Star,
Yes.
which was better, the single gender or the co-ed experience?
Right. I don't know, I don't know.
Got you.
That's sort of a tough question.
All right. Perhaps at the end of the program, we'll hear your response.
All right.
Don't worry, though. I won't ask you whether True Blue or Pale Blues are better high school.
No,
I won't ask
what
you
is one blue,
The first watch will be back after this break.
The Morning Watch today is brought to you by Honeybun. Big thanks to Honeybun.
When all is done and said, love me shawty bread. You love your shawty what? You love me shawty bread. And it was made by Honeybun. You love me shawty bread.
Here is a reminder from Love 101, the family station, as we face the COVID-19 pandemic. Masks are effective only when used in combination with frequent hand cleaning with soap and water or alcohol-based solutions. Wear a mask that is lined with 2 or more layers. When taking it off, ensure you dispose of it properly. I'm Nigel Wilkinson from Love 101, reminding you to protect yourself while protecting others. Stay safe and keep it locked on Love 101, the family station.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Now, if you had to do it all over again, which would you prefer to attend? A single gender or a co-ed high school? And when all is said and done, which is really the better of the two options? In this regard, what are some of the pros and cons, positives and negatives, advantages and disadvantages, which should be considered? Well, to discuss this issue, we have online this morning Mrs. Nadine Malloy, principal of the one and only Arden High School, and Mr. Dwight Pennycook, principal of the one and only Woolmer's Boys School. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, and good morning, Sir Tutland and Sister Malloy.
Hi, Dwight. How you doing?
Quite well, quite well.
All right, good to have you. We're looking forward to an interesting discussion.
I tell you,
With you, Mrs. Malloy, as far as you're aware, what is the rationale behind the establishing of co-ed schools like Arden High School?
I never heard of a rationale for doing that. In all of the historical stuff that I've read, I've not seen anything that says the reason they moved from having, I think it was 9 or 8 girls
Mhm.
to being a co-ed school. Because when it started with just a set of girls down on High Holborn Street.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Interesting. And there's nothing in the records you're saying, not even a hint?
I'm not aware of it. I'm not aware of it.
Yes. And when you think of it, though, Mr. Malloy, what do you think could be then? Seeing that you didn't see it in the records, what's your thought process?
Well, there have always been those persons who believe that it's a better experience to have both boys and girls in the same space to create balance. We are social beings and we relate to each other in a particular way. So there are always those persons who felt that it was a better thing to do. I remember I went to a girls' school. I went to Marymount High School for Girls over in Highgate St. Mary, and I started my teaching career at Bishop Gibson High School for Girls in Mandeville. And there were always those persons who felt that the distraction that comes with being in a single-sex school, the lack of distraction from being in a single-sex school, comes with certain benefits. And then there are those who believe that they would have wanted their children to be in a more balanced environment where they relate to the opposite sex. So I don't know. I guess it's just the two conversations are there.
Mr. Pennycook?
yes.
What was the thinking as far as you're aware behind the establishing of a single gender school like Woolmer's Boys School?
Well, I think with a situation like Woolmer's, some of us may know this story that the goldsmith in 1729, that is John Woolmer, would have left a sum of monies to start a free school primarily for boys. Of course, the history would have it that boys would have been the ones who would have been privileged to be facilitated in terms of education. Girls were not necessarily so considered. And so that is the history behind that bequest in 1729. So I think that would have, of course, that is at the foundation of Woolmer's, but in terms of the thinking, the modern thinking, we can appreciate that there are some clear benefits for having those single sex or single gender, as you put it, schools. Some would argue, as Ms. Malloy has pointed out, that boys and girls do develop differently and they do develop at a different pace. And so some persons have actually seen the benefit of having boys within a space where they can develop at their own pace. And some would say they are not necessarily distracted by the girls. I know some persons may look at that and say, oh, is that suggesting that boys may be weaker and the girls are such strong influences? But the fact is that different persons, their developmental path and the pace is different. So we have to treat with those, yes.
Yes. What factors, both of you, would you suggest be taken into account when seeking to determine whether co-ed or single gender schools are, which is better? What's
Excellent.
I
happening?
don't know. I don't know if either one is better. I just think, the premise on which they started, as Dwight would have shared just now, would have been a little different because the girls' schools were more into uh promoting the feminized type of education in response to that masculine type of education where the men were supposed to be the providers and they would hold certain kinds of jobs.
Mhm.
What I am seeing now is a total shift from that, and boys' schools and girls' schools have maintained their culture and their identities within a context where the lines are now blurred in terms of what it is that you want your child to do, or even the child himself or herself wanting to do. We have seen, and Dwight, you can bear me out on this one. We have seen where we have girls taking the top prizes in what would have been considered traditionally
Right.
masculine type subjects. I've had
Right.
a student at Arden take the Caribbean prize for, I think it was TD or BMed. It was BMed because it was, which is, do I remind me, building
And
mechanical.
mechanical engineering drawing.
Thank you. And you, I hope I'm not sounding very female right there. And then you've seen where the boys have taken prizes in food and nutrition, those subjects, whether at the CAPE level or the CSEC level. But then on the other hand, you would have a situation where you would call a female a cook and a male a chef. And those things are really going through the window now. So the lines are blurred. So it's just about what the school offers and where your comfort level is.
Right. And I would be quick to add that as I looked at how the debate or this apparent debate would seem to have been framed, I know there is a focus on the actual structure, whether it is co-educational or it is single gender. And one of the things that we've seen, and if you go to actual experience and you get the testimonials, you're going to note that those who would have participated or had a co-educational education, they are going to celebrate some things. Those who would have had a single gender experience are going to celebrate maybe the same things, but sometimes it would seem as if they speak about it and they celebrate it with a different level of intensity. And so I would want to come down on the side of the debate that reframes it a bit to look at what benefits the individual most. Nadine just spoke to girls winning those prizes, those CXC prizes in the sciences and some of the technical areas. And when you look at it really and truly, some students actually enter a single gender institution, and after grade 7, they find that, and their parents find that they are not doing well. The coping skills are not necessarily there. They are frustrated world without end. And then there are some who it would seem as if they come into that space and they thrive. When you think about it's as if it does well for their temperament, their range of talents, aptitudes, skills that they have, you see them really thriving. And one of the things I will hasten to say is that in speaking to many of the old boys, say at our Wilmer's Boys School, they speak highly about the kind of bonds that they would have formed. Surprisingly, yes, the academics are what they are, but there's something about the social element of the single gender school.
Tell you what,
yes.
Tell you what, Mr. Pennycook, could you just hold that thought? We're at a break, we'll be right back.
Right.
Phoenix Health and Vision Center, 65 Main Street, St. Anne's Bay, near the St. Anne's Bay Health Center. The only full care eye service center in St. Anne.
The time by
Phoenix Health and Vision Center
is
7:15 on the family station, Love 101.
That are the sound of some delicious grace beans I cook up. And grace beans well versatile and nutritious enough. You can have some by itself, with rice, fried dumplings or vegetables, or add it to your favorite meat kind to really bring out the flavor. And best believe, every bite you take a go nice. Try some grace beans today, including new additions like grace dried beans, black beans, red kidney beans, green lentils and chickpeas. Grace beans, always been good.
Me can tell you about short term motor insurance from JNGI. You choose what you need, 30, 60, 90 days policy. No long commitment, full third party. Don't park your car, don't walk, get a shotty. So affordable and it's not per nation market. JNGI shotty. Country party, we have a shotty. Just insure your vehicle and start it. Roll out with a shotty.
Shorty, the short-term motor insurance from JN General Insurance. Available only online.
Become the hero on the scene by taking the COVID vaccine. Get vaccinated as soon as you get all the facts. Don't listen to the rumors. This vaccine might just make it possible for teachers to sit face to face with schoolers. This vaccine make it safer for everybody, from the young to the elderly. Don't you want to go back to living normally when things were more orderly? And if you want to live a long good life, then we all have to do what's right. So let's get vaccinated along with the heroes on the front line.
A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Hey, just a reminder, the Morning Watch today is brought to you by Honey Bun.
When all is done and said, me love me shorty bread. You love your shorty what? Me love me shorty bread. And it was made by Honey Bun. Me love me shorty bread.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. And for the first watch, we are discussing co-ed schools vis-a-vis single-gender schools. Which is better? And we have online Mrs. Nadine Malloy, principal of the Arden High School, and Mr. Dwight Pennycook, principal of the Wolmer's Boys School. Mr. Pennycook, before the break, you're telling us about the old boys, not past students, but old boys, and the social bond that they experience.
Right. I would have said while the academics are what they are, there is a kind of intensity with which they speak about the bonds that they would have formed and forged over their time within the single sex, single gender experience. And so I don't know if it's a matter that either is better, but when you hear what these young men and the older men will actually speak of, and even so many of the females, they really speak with a kind of enjoyment. There is a celebration, there is a valuing of the experience. But at the same time, we must always bear in mind that obviously the single gender experience is really not for everyone.
Yes. Malloy, I believe that there's a feeling out there, concept, that the co-ed gives a more rounded experience for the student. I think you alluded to it earlier, perhaps, or was it Mr. Pennycook, the whole matter of sharing with the opposite sex. Is there a disadvantage, you would say, to this single gender schools, therefore?
I went to Marymount High School for girls, and I don't feel like I was disadvantaged at all. There were the boys up at St. Mary High, and if you speak to Gary Allen and Donovan Thomas, Dr. Donovan Thomas, they will tell you about the dynamic there. I won't talk about that one. But we are creatures of, we adapt and we adjust. And when you are in a single sex school, a girls' school or a boys' school, then you form alliances or connections with your neighbors down the road. So there is that element to it as well. I'm sure there is a connection between the boys at Wolmer's Boys and the girls at Wolmer's Girls. And I know that the girls at St. Hugh's, they connect with the gentlemen down at
Hero
KC.
circle.
Careful,
Right.
no,
And
careful,
hero
no. Oh,
circle.
Miss Malloy, careful, careful.
No. And here they say they are sister schools, so
Yeah.
brother and sister schools. So there are all kinds of connections, and there are all kinds of other pluses that you get out of it. So I don't know that there is a disadvantage. I certainly don't feel disadvantaged. It's different, and there are certain elements that you don't have to consider. You don't have to worry about, how you appear to a boy or that sort of a thing. Like I say, sometimes it seems like a distraction, but on the other hand, though, you do have students who start out in a co-ed school and decide that they want to move on to a single-sex school because that type of school offers them a different experience that they would like
Right.
to have. So I don't know that either one is better. I know it's just the quality of the product that you offer. Do you
Right.
offer enough subjects for the students to be able to choose a good career? Is the quality of your teaching good? Are you a caring school? Do you offer enough co-curricular programs that will allow the straight academic experience to be rounded out? So, for example, Wilma's boys, I know, your sporting program is pretty good. Arden's sporting program is not at that level, but our cultural program is very, very high, and our clubs and societies, it's just a joy to experience that. So it's for me, it's about how you craft that culture in your school and the experience that you give your students. And for me, I have a way of saying it, that we educate students at Arden and then they pass exams. And just recently I said I'm going to start saying it a different way, Dwight, and I know you're going to like this one.
Let me hear it.
You come to Arden for the experience. It's not original, but it says what I want to say, and it says what we want to do.
I fully agree. I fully agree. The fact is that I would have mentioned the issue of the bonds, but when you listen to even the young ladies who have who'd have had the experience at Wilma's Girls' School, they speak so proudly about the kind of shaping, the kind of development that they would have experienced, the personalities who impacted their lives in a significant way. And when you hear it, it's almost narrated in very dramatic fashion. And so you'll hear them speak about Miss Pinto. They will speak about those great headmistresses of the past and the teachers who really had that significant impact on them. I would not say I've heard that kind of narrative, that sort of intense narration in relation to some other schools that may be co-educational. It's not that it doesn't exist, but there is just something that I note with the single gender experience and those who have benefited from it. I know that you asked your colleague in studio there about his experience at St. George's and whether he would have had a better experience when he was in the lower grades or when he went to the sixth form. But the fact is that even as one who I've never experienced single sex or single gender education. All my life, I've only been to co-educational institutions. And I can see benefits from participating in that. It is clear that some of us need to have the females around because they help to balance us. So you will not, some people refer to a kind of hypermasculinity that they will see in some all-boys schools, but you'll find that when the girls are there, they do assist some of us as males to be a little bit more rounded, but it's not that in the all-boys situation, as Nadine pointed out, with girls being maybe next door or just up the road, that you will not have that kind of balancing as well. So
still with you, Mr. Pennycook. I think we've been looking at it unintentionally so from the perspective of the students. What about the teachers? What are you picking up? Are there teachers who prefer single gender schools vis-a-vis co-ed?
I am telling you there are, and surprisingly, quite a number of them are females. They will tell you,
Females
and
even, I'm sorry, so females even for the boys' schools?
Females, there are females who will tell you hands down that they prefer to teach in an all-boys situation.
But Dwight, I think it is situational in some respects. Yes, I have colleagues who have told me that they prefer where they are, and some prefer, the balance or the I don't know, the whole interaction of being, going from male to female. You see, because you have to treat both sets of students differently. Now, if a boy is giving me too much trouble and I need to deal with that boy, I prefer to call Dwight to deal with that boy, because once I get annoyed, I am going to sound like a miserable lady to him. And a man dealing with him, one-on-one, man-to-man, that's different. And then there is the other side of the coin where girls tend to be, not always, closer to their fathers. So when you have a male teacher being able to speak to them on a certain level, it makes a difference. Whereas there are some instances where boys would need a kind of a mother type figure. So it's all situation, it's all contextual, and they tend to learn differently too. So when you are able to differentiate in that kind of a way, I think differentiation in a boys' school, in single-sex school, it's less challenging, because I taught at a girls' school for a while. Then I became a principal at Buff Bay, and then now at Arden. So it really creates a very interesting mix of what you do, how you do it, and why you do it. And I think it's just a little bit more straightforward when you're in a gendered school, a school where it's boy or girls, as against when you have both. But I want to make another point. I find that the students who attend the co-ed schools, they are equally loyal to their schools. I have some super loyal past students at Arden who they just go beyond and beyond. They don't make a lot of excitement about it. They really, really support the school and help the school, and they're proud of the school. And a lot of what I've learned over the last 9 years of historical value about Arden came from the experiences that past students have shared with me, the Silver Fox, Mr. Banks, Miss Gale with that pointing of that finger, Mr. Roberts, who produced so many doctors and from the science department, and it goes on. And it's a similar thing at Buff Bay. I remember one student saying to me, a past student saying to me at Buff Bay, a dental nurse. She said she came to school at Buff Bay and she transferred to Titchfield and passed exams. And she was speaking to the quality of the interactions that she had while she was at Buff Bay before she moved on to Titchfield in fourth form. So I find that, I don't know if it's one or the other. Having gone to a girls' school, spent 8 years in a girls' school, and now spent my 20 years in grade schools. I just think it's just make the best of where you are.
All right, 1 minute each. Should it be established single gender schools, that is at the primary level? 1 minute, Mrs. Malone, and then you, Mr. Pennycook.
I don't think that is necessary. I don't think that is necessary at all. I think it's good for them to be both in the same place, educationally, in their early formative years. I would still support having some single-sex schools in the country. I really would not want to have Marymount High School change to a co-ed school. I think they've made some attempt at it at sixth form at one point, and many of us were not pleased at all. I know the Carteret College had a bit of a challenge when girls started going to the Carteret College because it was originally boys. But at the primary school, to be specific, at the K through 6, no, I don't see it as necessary.
Mr. Pennycook?
In similar fashion, I don't think developmentally we should have that kind of, I'm going to use the term, segregation at those early levels. I think where we do facilitate single gender education at the secondary level, I think that is where we should put the emphasis, because I think that is where the individual, as he or she navigates that identity formation period, then that is where you need that kind of input. So I wouldn't go below the secondary level for single gender education.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Interesting and insightful discussion. I want to thank you both for joining us. Have a productive day.
Thank you much, and thank for the invitation.
Thanks for having me on. Have the best one.
Blessing.
You too. Okay, listeners, the Morning Watch will return in just a moment.
What time is it? Summertime. It's our vacation. What time is it? Party time. That's right, say it loud. What time is it? Time of our lives. Anticipation. What time is it? Summertime. School's out. Scream and shout.
JN Auto Loan, helping you on your journey. Roll out and make a statement in your brand new vehicle.
The time by JN will help you find a way is 7:31.
Morning, officer.
Morning, ma'am. Looking for a suspect in a current investigation and need to search your premises.
Then why you want to search my home, officer? Me and my family have a right to privacy, you know. And we have a right to protect our home from illegal search. Can I see the search warrant?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You can come do your search, but me have to watch you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Everybody have rights. Brought to you by the National Family Planning Board and the Office of the Public Defender.
When all is done and said, love me shawty bread. You love your shawty what? You love me shawty bread. And it was made by Honey Bun. You love me shawty bread.
I always do my best to stay in control of my expenses. So with Flow, I added my mobile to my home internet service and elevated my savings. I get 50% off my mobile plan each month. Yeah, man, I get a simple, predictable mobile bill of $1,600 plus GCT and never sign a contract nor made a deposit. And you can get this too. Add your mobile to your Flow home internet for elevated savings of 50% off your mobile plan each month. Visit the Flow store or discoverflow.co to sign up today.
Does this sound remind you of car insurance? Or does this sound remind you of getting a loan for your small business? What about this? Does this remind you of paying your bills online? Trust Grace Kennedy Financial Group to do your banking, insurance, investments, money services, and more gracefully. Get to know us at gracekennedyfinancialgroup.com.
I'm looking for a new pizza joint with that perfect crust. My car needs a bit of a tune-up, and my pregnant wife needs something from the pharmacy. So I turned to the printed yellow directory, and in an instant, the pizzas are ordered, the oil change is booked, and the thing that I'm not allowed to say out loud has been purchased for my wife. Problem solved. When you need something quick, do yourself a favor. Flip through the printed yellow directory. Stop searching, start finding. Yellow, we know local.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Let's have a look at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. In the Gleaner, tourism bigwigs to visit Jamaica. Mourners rue, missing funeral return. And then crashes take huge toll on families within the country. Observer, pastors happy with new relaxed COVID-19 measures. And we see here that Canada lifts some COVID-19 restrictions for fully vaccinated travelers. And also, report highlights risky sexual behavior among young children. Those are some of the major stories in our newspapers. Coming up next, we'll read some of the feedback from our social media question. Which is better, co-ed schools or single gender schools? And tell us why. Leave a comment on our Facebook page, Love 101 FM Jamaica, or WhatsApp 876-997-3125.
When all is done and said, love me shawty bread. You love your shawty what? You love me shawty bread. And it was made by Honey Bun. You love me shawty bread.
Colgate Colgate Triple Action. 3 benefits for a deep clean. As a mother, you always want to give the best to your family and to make them happy. With Colgate Triple Action, you give them 3 reasons to smile: cavity protection, whiter teeth, and fresh breath. A unique formula with a minty flavor they will love. Colgate Triple Action. Find it at your favorite store.
Digicel Plus LTE Home Service brings super fast internet to more people in more places. That's simply more speed for your entire family to stream, download, and stay connected in real time. Enjoy better coverage, reliable speeds, and more value. To find out if super fast Digicel Plus LTE Home is in your area, call 888-935-5050 or 145 from a Digicel number, or look out for a Digicel Plus agent in your community. Digicel Plus, Jamaica's fastest internet provider.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Let's join Shivani for a look at how our Facebook and WhatsApp friends answered today's question: which is better, co-ed schools or single-gender schools? Shivani.
All right, let me quickly go through. This one says, I went to both single gender and co-ed high schools and think that experiencing both is best. However, if we have to choose, the co-ed idea is better. Having been created male and female originally and throughout life, both sexes have to, have worked in the community. The co-ed idea provides the better opportunity for learning to relate as males and females in addition to the academics. All right. This one says neither, one, they both have their strength and weakness. All right. This one says, I enjoyed my co-ed experience at Glenmore High, and so did several schoolmates who ended up getting married to each other. Oh, really? This one says co-ed is vital. It allows each gender to learn about each other. This allowed my years at Arden. All right. And I see where Maurice and Trevor, they're saying, to remind everyone, there's only one true blue.
I agree.
Right. I'm not taking
I agree.
I'm the only one standing.
One true blue. No pale blue, Shivani. Thanks for reading the comments.
Oh, yes.
Thanks for the feedback. Well, as we transition into the second watch, it is said that cryptocurrency was invented in 2009. Its inventor and his or her nationality have not been confirmed, but its usage has grown across the world, even though it may look a bit different from economy to economy. And less than a month ago, El Salvador became the first nation to approve legislation which will make cryptocurrency Bitcoin a legal tender. What are the implications arising from this development? And what are the possibilities of Jamaica taking similar action in the future? Well, to discuss these and other related issues, we have joining us Mr. Maurice Barnes, CEO, Victor Mutual Innovation, and Mr. Trevor Forrest, CEO, 876 Technology Solutions Limited. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning. Morning, Dylan. Morning. Morning to your listeners.
Yes, I see you chimed into the comments, eh?
Indeed.
All right, let me give it to you, Mr. Forrest. I'm going to begin with the most obvious question. What really is cryptocurrency? And while you're at it, what is Bitcoin?
Right. So cryptocurrency really is an entirely digital form of currency that exists entirely in the digital domain. So it doesn't involve paper money or anything like that. And it derived its name cryptocurrency from the fact that when it is created using a technology called cryptography, which makes it very, very secure. very hard to forge. And one of the unique features of cryptocurrency is that exchange of that currency does not require any intermediary or middleman. So exchange of that currency requires no bank. So you're able to conduct transactions directly with another entity or individual without the need for a bank. Now that sometimes when people hear that, it raises some eyebrows, because the challenge that comes to mind is, how do you ensure that a transaction conducted in the digital domain without any intermediary that act as a trustworthy middleman actually works and can be trusted? And that is really handled and dealt with by the technology that cryptocurrencies use, and the technology is called blockchain.
Oh, so Bitcoin is what?
So Bitcoin was actually the one of the first and perhaps the most popular cryptocurrency that was created back at the end of 2008, 2009. And it came about because you might recall back then there was a huge financial system meltdown, and it generated a lot of distrust for the gatekeepers of the financial systems and institutions. And what the creators, and you made accurate reference that the creator Satoshi Nakamoto is not known, and in the circles, really, it's really a pseudonym for a bunch of people. And the whole idea behind creating it was to create a currency exchange system that was extremely secure, extremely trustworthy, but was not prone to the whims and fancies of the financial system or the traditional fiat system that we use now. And it would not be at all interfered with by central banks or government. So that's
as you mentioned banks now, Mr. Barnes.
Right.
Where does the bank come in all of this, if at all, and what are the concerns from
all right perspective? So let me just follow up on something Trevor said in terms of what a cryptocurrency is, and this probably is a good segue into the banks. The one of the features of a cryptocurrency is what we call decentralized control, right? So you are utilizing the blockchain technology. It is what we call a decentralized ledger. So there's no one or single entity which controls the blockchain, and this is very important. You will have heard recently about the central bank digital currency, and certainly the one that will be issued by BOJ here.
Right.
So by the definition of what a cryptocurrency is, the central bank digital currency is not a cryptocurrency in its truest sense, because it is not slated to be, or it has not been communicated that this currency will run on a blockchain, and it won't be decentralized. So it will be controlled by the central bank, and the currencies will be issued by the central bank. It is in fact a digital currency, and so therefore it will exist in the digital world, in the digital realm, and it's basically the digital form of the fiat currency that we know in terms of our Jamaican dollar today. So speaking about Bitcoin, so the challenge is really something like Bitcoin. One of the things that there's a certain level of anonymity, in a sense that you can actually have a Bitcoin wallet without anyone actually knowing who you are.
Mr. Barnes, so sorry. We're at a break. Could you just hold that thought? I'll be right back.
Sure.
This is Love 101, the Fabulous Station. It's now 7:45.
Me a forward! Is where you going? What you mean? Me get my vaccine so me can touch the road now. Touch road? You know your ears hard. The health people said this is only the first dose and we need 2 doses to be fully protected. Eh? What you mean? What me mean? We're waiting for the second dose, Mr. Sir. So you try turn your yard and go and follow the protocols. Wear your mask, wash your hand, and keep your distance from other people. Get vaccinated, get back to life. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
We're working on a brighter day, you don't have to fret. You know your family secure, you don't need no stress. It's like you run a 5K, set the pace, win the race, celebrate, and you still never bust no sweat. See we brother and we sister, this is how we heal them. Easy now, you and Guardian Life, it's a nation we're building. Many hearts, but we all want the same thing. Live secure and live easy.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint, and we are discussing in the second watch the use of cryptocurrency in commercial activity. And we have online Mr. Trevor Forrest, CEO of 876 Technology Solutions Limited, and Mr. Maurice Barnes, CEO of Victor Mutual Innovation. Mr. Barnes, before the break, you were telling us more about the Bitcoin reality.
Right. So with the advent of Bitcoin and this sort of decentralized currency, what it does present an opportunity for certainly the unbanked to be able now to participate in the financial system. Where we are right now, and if persons have been watching Bitcoin or trading in Bitcoin, and just as a disclaimer, I'm by no means a financial advisor, nor am I licensed to give financial advice. I just want to make that clear, even if I may, be speaking on in terms of my own opinions. The price of Bitcoin is very volatile, right? The price, if you look at where Bitcoin is today, it's at roughly about 34,000 US to one Bitcoin. Back in April, the price was peaked at about $63,000 to one Bitcoin, right? And I mean, even in a day, the value of Bitcoin could lose, it could go up or down by even 10%. So what you find with that sort of volatility, it is actually not easy to be using the Bitcoin for, let's say, everyday transactions. But what happens is that, and in the instance of El Salvador having announced Bitcoin as legal tender, there are actually technologies out there which will utilize the blockchain network. And you have what you call stable coins, where they peg these.
What is blockchain, Mr. Barnes?
The blockchain, as Trevor mentioned, blockchain is a technology on which Bitcoin transactions are conducted. And also not just conducted, but minted in the sense of, how Bitcoins are created, how they are traded. They're traded on this, what we call a blockchain. And the blockchain really is just a digital ledger which records transactions. And each transaction will have an address, which will basically say that I am sending money from this address to that address. And then you have a person who will own a particular address, which is their wallet. And that allows you to conduct transactions on this network. And this network, as we mentioned again, is not controlled by any central entity. So that is where we get to be decentralized, and it offers it's sort of analogous to each individual maintaining their own bank account in their wallet, as opposed with a financial institution.
Yeah, let me see if I can just get it clear. There is no cash involved at the initial stage of these transactions. Am I correct? It's just digital, right?
Yeah. So
it is digital.
Yeah.
It is. Okay. That's correct.
Right. And Mr. Forrest, as things go on, as this process continues, at what stage can it become encashed?
All right, so let me highlight a couple critical things as it relates to Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency and its intended use in commercial activities. One of the biggest things you have to be aware of is, as opposed to regular money, or even what's called the central bank digital currency. One major differences between these instruments and a cryptocurrency is that a cryptocurrency is not regulated. All right, that has with it a couple of ramifications. So you have protection when you have a currency that is regulated. You have, there are certain rules that govern how
checks and balances.
There is protection in the form of deposit insurance and all of these wonderful things. So there is a huge system or ecosystem surrounding digital currencies that are regulated and backed and guaranteed by central banks and governments. In the case of cryptocurrencies existence is governed and dictated in a public way by the people and the network that it exists on. Now, what that does is it creates a unique challenge in how do you, one, determine the value of any cryptocurrency at any given time, which is why it's so volatile. But two, how do you exchange cryptocurrency for traditional fiat currency in a way that one is accepted into the traditional financial system, but two is done so at a meaningful and accepted value. Because when you look at how the value of a cryptocurrency changes, this thing changes every 5 minutes, or in some cases every other second. So it poses some challenges. So in looking at how these things become accepted, you have to look at how it can be integrated with the traditional system, if at all, because what we're talking about is an entirely new way of transacting business. It's an entirely new paradigm that puts responsibility of management of your money, your accounts, in the hands of the actual person, you and me. And a lot of times, not everybody wants that responsibility, because understand, if you lose your money or you lose access to your wallet in crypto space, you lose everything. There are no protections, no fallbacks for you not taking your responsibility to manage your own things seriously. So all these factors come into play when you're contemplating now how the general public, the 75-year-old person who is not tech savvy, or the overly savvy and nefarious actor that is seeking to steal your money. All of these factors come into play when you're talking now about how you integrate the use of a currency of this nature into what you call legal tender. Now, you mentioned El Salvador. What El Salvador and other countries are exploring in making cryptocurrency legal tender is the fact that the cost of doing transactions is extremely low. So, immediate case in point, when somebody from the diaspora sends money to family members in Jamaica, they send it through Western Union, MoneyGram, there are some very high fees associated with that transaction, and sometimes it takes time. In the crypto or digital currency realm, that transaction happens in real time, instantaneously, and the cost is almost zero. So it has some real practical applications that will impact economies, because the faster people can get money and spend it is the better it is for economic activity. So that's kind of
Yeah, let me
that happen.
bring back in Mr. Barnes. What suggestions or recommendation would you give to those who may be thinking of exploring cryptocurrency negotiations? And to add to that, a listener sent in a question: Can you invest in Bitcoin mining? Person is saying that he or she was invited to do so. Your comment?
Yes,
Barnes.
you can. I don't know how much your listener would have known. I mean, Bitcoin mining, it can be a lucrative business, but it also takes up a lot of energy. And I see my friend Trevor there shaking his head, because one of the big concerns about the Bitcoin and the Bitcoin technology is that to mine Bitcoins uses a lot of computing power, therefore a lot of energy, and it is seen as not being very good for the environment. So and therefore countries that take part in Bitcoin mining typically will have low energy or electricity costs, because the costs can be very exorbitant. But again, it will be worth it, because as in terms of payment for mining, miners will typically get a fraction or two or a couple of Bitcoins in terms of participating in the Bitcoin network. So
just to add
that as well,
just to add, there are two ways in which you can invest in Bitcoin mining. One is to invest in the platforms to do mining yourself and become part of the network. In Jamaica, that is just not feasible, because the cost of electricity here makes it way more difficult to turn any sort of benefit for you as a miner when you do the math. The second way to invest in mining is to actually invest in the mining providers' facilities. And in doing so, you purchase what's called hash rate. That's a more risk-free approach, where simply you invest in the processing power that major mining operations do. Now, I suggest, if anyone is getting into that, that you do your homework. In fact, I actually invest in that way. But you must do your homework as to which mining platforms and operators you invest in, because not all of them are created equal and not all of them are legitimate.
Okay. All right. Final question, Mr. Barnes. I think you'll have to take it in interest of time. How comfortable and sensible is it for Jamaica to go a similar route to that of El Salvador?
All right. That's a very, 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 very tricky question.
1 minute. Just 1 minute.
Just 1 minute. At this stage, my take on it is that we need to be on the watch, certainly for these disruptive technologies, because, as Trevor said, the use case for the remittances in El Salvador, you're looking at about 20% of their GDP is remittances. They're pegged to the US dollar as their currency, and the cost to send money back to El Salvador is very, very, very high. So therefore, for them, you're going to have an experience that you're sending 50 US from the US. They're going to be getting the equivalent of almost 50 US when it hits El Salvador, through the use of cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. Because the idea is that sending US dollars, it will be converted to Bitcoins at a very fast rate, and then it will be reconverted back when it gets into El Salvador. So you can either store it in Bitcoin and utilize that in terms of your everyday transactions, or if you want, you could go to a Bitcoin or an ATM machine, a Bitcoin ATM machine, which already exists in El Salvador, and then convert that back to US dollars.
Jamaica, we're not seeing that anytime soon.
We will. I don't think we'll be seeing that anytime soon. And I mean, our financial sector is quite robust and certainly highly regulated. So it will be some time before we see anything like that.
Well, what we will be seeing, what we
Yeah.
will be seeing is the central bank digital currency by next
Currency.
year,
That's
which
correct.
is the
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. And Fervet Opus in campus, eh?
Campus. Thank you.
Fervent, my brother, fervent.
All right.
Fervent.
Thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we continue to set the stage for a discussion of topical and controversial issues. For information or get copies of this program, call our production department at 876-968-9596-7. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Miss Cassie Gale, and our guests. I'm Dylan Toussaint. Hand you back to Love in the Morning with Shavani Blair from St. George's.
Yeah, true blue.
You have an answer, sir, today?
No,
Question I posed to you.
I don't have an answer.
You don't have an answer?
No. You know.
Okay, I give you a pass.
Oh, great.
Today.
Thank
have
you.
Have a wonderful day, sir.
All the very best. And the Morning Watch this morning was brought to you by Honeybud. Big thanks to Honeybud. It is 8:01 and it's time for the program 14